But yeah, like when it played, it was just like, okay, one, it's real. That was my first takeaway. And then two, my reaction, and I know not everyone feels this way based on our Discord, but my reaction was that fucking it?
Yeah, I agree.
Was this worth it for what you're doing? Was this worth this minor ratings increase? Was this worth, like, putting it on your screen and making, we're going to talk Dynamite later on. I've got barely any takes from Dynamite this week. It was a fucking mess. Both in practice and just in how was anyone supposed to pay attention to that after it aired? And we were saying that all the way in the lead up to it. Like, obviously, this was going to overshadow things. Like, before you get into anything else, hey, we've got a pay-per-view next week. Dynasty is next week. Is anybody talking about that? No, they're talking about CM Punk. I joked about CM Punk being the biggest star in WWE and AEW, but he's the main character in AEW, probably more so than he is in WWE this week. And yeah, it was an embarrassment from start to finish. Like, it shouldn't have been on the TV. Said that from the start. If you absolutely had to do this, maybe I understand leaking it to the sheets, leaking it to even a TMZ might have picked it up. That type of thing. I could understand that. I could understand, as a fellow message board poster, Tony Khan being obsessed with revenge ever since CM Punk did the Ariel Helwani podcast, which, again, got to remember, we're reacting on primetime TV to a thing that was said on a fucking podcast. But all that said, I could even forgive it if there was something to this footage.
I was about to say, sorry.
Nothing's changed. Everyone is in the same position as they were before.
Yes.
Like, there are elements of the way Punk told the story, and it's Punk. I didn't expect anything less, where it's very slanted, very from his point of view. You can argue, he went at Jack Perry first very clearly. His recollection of the story is, he made the joke, didn't he, on Ariel Helwani about how, when someone's in your face, like Chael says, you got to choke a bitch, or whatever the fuck he said, yeah. Some line like that. And, that's Punk. I've got friends who are like Punk, telling that story from his point of view. It's that type of thing. One of my mates to go to tell me that story, and I go, mate, you were in his face. Like, he's in your face because you're in his face.
Yeah,
you're the problem here. So there is that element of it, but broad strokes, what he said happened. I think. Yeah. I don't think there was a major change there. Jack Perry comes out of it looking fucking terrible because he got punked out, like, with no recourse, no chance to talk for himself. No, well, maybe he'll come back, but again, we can get into that. But there's no, he got to look like a bitch. He got choked out by Punk and then got held back by Samoa Joe. So he looks shit. He looks weak. If anything, kind of got a bit of sympathy for him. But he's a fucking heel when he comes back, so we don't really want to have sympathy for him, so it doesn't help him. Punk looks like a dick, but I think to the people who like Punk, it's kind of like, he choked Jack Perry out, like he said. Probably going to have literally going to have no negative effect on him. And biggest of all, Tony Khan opened the door to, one, make himself look like the most gotten to man on planet Earth by even reacting to this and showing the footage. But two, the biggest open goal he left people was for everyone to look at it and go, sorry, mate, you fear for your life over that. Like, you fear for your life over Punk pushing a couple of monitors over. You fear for your life because of, like, a choke happening that would happen on the fucking night bus in our fucking youth every Friday and Saturday night we were out. You know what I mean? It was nothing. Yeah. Like, from a violence point of view, it was nothing. He's a sheltered billionaire. Like, nothing could be more clear from watching this. And again, I suppose we all knew that going in. But it just provides, material to his haters as well. And he looks fucking terrible. Everybody looks bad on the AEW side coming out of this. Where's Tony Khan? And where's the company as well? Like, an own goal if I've ever seen one, mate. And it was completely unforced and completely of their own making and completely of their own choice. Again, the week before the pay-per-view. Just embarrassing stuff.
But that's the thing, like, you pretty much covered it all there, but that's my takeaway of, like, he's saying we've got this footage. And a little meme has come out just beforehand as well that it was going to be, like, it make Punk look that bad. And I was thinking, yeah, all right, fair play to him. I'm not his biggest fan, but if someone's had a go at you, I agree with you, though, not on your prime time Dynamite show, don't get me wrong, but, if someone's really pissed you off and you've got this revenge thing, fair enough, fire back at him. It was a whole lot of nothing. I've seen people saying it's right. You see this in any other probably sports locker rooms. Granted, whoever's instigating it or not, you see little skirmishes like this. And as you say, you see it on night buses. It's just, as you say, it was a whole lot of nothing to me anyway, looking at that footage. And it was, which we all knew as well, it was a total ratings attempt. And whether you say he's taken the W on that as well, but I mean, can you?
A mild
really?
Success,
yeah,
but not really, not worth it. Not the fucking 20,000 odd. Usually that quarter goes down. It's gone mildly up by 23,000 people. Not worth it. Chris Hero, we got to get into. I felt
his face was
so bad for Chris.
He didn't know what to do, did he?
I didn't realise it was him at first, and then it was obvious. It was like, oh, fucking hell, of course it is. You look at like the body shape of him and his salmon shirt, and the fact that he puts his hand in his fucking in his face. He knows, like, he's dealt with this with Punk.
He's seen it. I'm going to say he's seen it many a time before.
He knows Punk better than a lot of people know Punk. Yeah. I wonder what the state's relationship is after this, but like, and that's the other thing as well. Shouldn't get lost. You are right. It's a load of nothing. I think I'm right that it's embarrassing for the company. I'm right that most people aren't going to really bat an eyelid at the level of violence in here. You're also right, again, I hate the talking point of, well, do this in your work and see what happens. They don't work in an office. You can compare it to sports. You can compare it to this happening on the training grounds, like in locker room bust-ups, fucking Roy Keane's got a laundry list of stuff like this. Those types of incidents you can refer it to. And I'm not even saying you wouldn't come out of it going, yeah, he needs to get sacked. Because despite the low level of violence, second incidents, he was the fucking problem. I don't think anyone can defend him, and he probably, at that point, did he care about his job? No, he didn't. He wanted to be sacked too. He wanted to go back to
I always say, Ben, I don't know if it's going away, but he should have been, I know you're a Punk guy, he should have been sacked the minute he done the brawl out. Tony Khan, the minute that ended, should have sacked him. And then we wouldn't have had all this. That's my personal thing to it. If he's going to be this boss and this leader, once again, that's opening another box, isn't it?
Well, they showed some kind of leadership, which is, what he's proven a lot of things Punk said right, by the way. Like,
100%.
As far as like leadership and as far as like, being a serious person. But that, again, not getting away from the fact that I'm not someone who thinks, it was nonsense, Punk should have been fired. He should. It was the second big incident like this on their biggest show.
Yeah.
Absolutely, sack him. But like, again, putting it on TV, just hugely embarrassing. And just, again.
But then as well, he might as well be on TV at this point, Tony Khan, because everything the Young Bucks are saying, everything Will Ospreay is saying, he's writing this dialogue for them. He might as well be a character on the TV at this point when you're watching it. I've got, Crew myself, me mate Crewy, sorry for listeners. He's the biggest AEW fan there is. And he was this close to quitting. He was this close to saying fuck it, because what is going on? You know what I mean? He might as well be on TV himself.
2 weeks ago, we were all going, let the AEW coming back, We had Gareth on this on
the feeling.
The feeling's back. What happened to the feeling? It's gone, and it's their own doing. Because instead of just putting good shows on, they're fucking wheeling Cope out there to do fucking rah speeches.
Yeah.
There's Ospreay after this as well, which wasn't great either. And then there's this as well. It's fucking utterly just amateur hour stuff, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Like he's gotten to, Benno. We know, we've seen it. We've seen his meltdowns on Twitter. All right, but at least that's on Twitter. Do you know what I mean? As we keep circling back to, this is on your main show, not even Collision, whatever. People say, well, they're not going to get ratings for that. But he's putting it on his main show. He's the most gotten to guy going, mate. It's madness. It's got to stop.
And the biggest thing I could say as well is that, again, Jack makes no sense for Jack Perry. Like, you can spin it, but like, he's going to come back with babyface sympathy rather than heat. Although I will say he's on a show we're going to talk about later in Chicago for New Japan. Like, those CM Punk chants are going to follow him round, like they're going to follow AEW around now. Like, the Bucks are going to appear on screen in certain places, and instead of just getting booed and us all concentrating on,
they'll call that good heat, though, won't they? That's what they'll spin it as. You can't.
How long did we go without AEW being the company that you had CM Punk chants ring? What company does that remind you of? You know what I mean? Like,
it's mad.
They've introduced that too by making him a character in this, and I started this by saying, like, I almost respected how well they threaded it in, like, the Bucks were like, this distracted us from our match, and even the FTR comments vaguely made sense, even though FTR were basically like, why the fuck are we still talking about this, which is
first thing that
at this point
Wheeler said, didn't he, on the mic?
They did thread that needle, absolutely. But again, the allegiances are all right, because based on this footage, Jack Perry's a heel, the Bucks are heels, so therefore Punk's a face, so I should chant for him, and therefore I suppose, because FTR are the faces and he's on their side, so like, it doesn't really, you can make it work, you can pretend you're justifying it for storyline reasons, but you're not. It was there for the the obvious reason we all thought it was. And it was like, again, you could justify all these things if there was more to the footage. I've got to say, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad now I know.
You were loving it. Come on, yeah.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to see the. I'd love to see the brawl out footage too. I'd love to see that, so you can crystallize it in your mind's eye. Because up until it was like, okay, there must be more. It must be that like Punk, looks silly. He slapped on a choke and then got punked out by Jack Perry, or like there was an excessive level of violence that he showed. Towards Tony Khan, that's going to be on.
I want to see that. Is that going to be on? Is that on tape when he apparently goes for Khan?
There's mixed reports as to whether that is the moment Tony Khan feared for his life, which I think is the way most people are taking it, or if there's a subsequent incident that is more to it. I mean, again, not stupid. Kind of understand the billionaires trying to sack someone with a very big contract. Probably leaning into that for business reasons. I was fearing for my life, but the employees' lives would say, at risk. Therefore, you're sacked with, no further notice needed. There's probably a tactical thing to that, but reputationally, like in tatters. And again, the feeling was back 2 or 3 weeks ago. It really felt like it was. And now we're back in the doldrums. Now we're back at, like, they were in WWE's shadow enough over WrestleMania weekend, and again, that's another counterpoint I've seen people make. Well, at least we're talking about AEW again, but I don't think there's such a thing.
Not in a positive, is it?
No news is good news. Like, all news is good news, however you want to put it. You know what I mean? Like it's a massive negative because we're all laughing at it. You might not like it, but WCW 2000 was trending on Wednesday. All of the wrong comparisons are being made, and
that's just not a good look in it. Even in the bubble or whatever you want to call it, the Twitter circles that we all live in as hardcore fans, that's the last thing you want to be compared to, isn't it? Really, you know what I mean? So it's. But as you say, will this be blown over then in a couple of weeks with the pay-per-view, as you say, coming up? They're going to put a great card on our, they have good matches, and then will that be enough to match this and then carry on from there? Will it, this is what we've got at, until CM Punk says something again in another interview, or someone says something, and they start going on their own TV,
Well, that's the thing, it made Cope look bad too, because Cope did his rah-rah speech. I didn't like it. But the point of the speech was, let's move on.
Yeah, basically. I watched that and I was like, once again, Tony Khan should have literally been in front of him with a fucking board with letters on, reading it out. And it was like, and I got, I did, as you say, I agree with you, I didn't like it. Or I was like, what's this? But you're right. It was like, put a line on, let's move on. Let's crack on with the matches, with the shows, which FTR said as well. Even he said, didn't he, Wheeler? Like you said there at the start, he said, we've been putting good shows on. Why are we talking about this again? It's never going to go away, is it? Until Khan, is he going to brush it to the side? No. Or is he ever going to change? No. So it's always going to be here then. So,
like Simon asks here, why would they need to claim his fear for his life to sack him? Belt and braces in it. It's an extra thing to go for. I suppose I'm giving Tony Khan justification, like, because if he meant that, then again he's lived the sheltered life we all believe he has. Will saying here, he thinks what we saw met the report, and I think that too. I'm not convinced there's any other kind of incident to back up that there's more that happened to Tony Khan that's not covered here. I think this is that. And it's done with now, unless they do, at some point find reason to release the brawl out footage if there is any. I'd watch it, but I'd pay pay-per-view for it. But again, I'm a sicko. There's that too, Oh fuck! I mean, there's a couple of bits of reaction from it. Obviously, let us know in the chat if there's any other elements of it to kind of cover. But obviously, the Young Bucks. There was mixed reporting this week as to whether they were fine.
Yeah.
Mainly coming from Wade Keller, and Wade is, for whatever you want to say for him, a responsible journalist. And, he basically clarified that he'd heard earlier in the week that the Bucks weren't happy about it, and that as the week went on, they were essentially fine with it, and went along with it and played along with it and did the best job they could. Like, there were a couple of good lines in there from the Bucks. I thought, like the bit where they said something about it. If you have a problem with Jack Perry, you're the problem. Like a man once said. Punk said that, very very famously said that, and obviously the other kind of follow-on thing is Will Ospreay apparently again was wrongly reported earlier in the week as apparently having issue, or maybe it not necessarily being his full idea to cut his promo, which followed the book stuff. Again, like it probably changed through the week, and it probably was a bit of give and take. Like you said, Tony Khan's probably was sat there behind her with a load of lines that he wanted them to get about Triple H. But again, I'm sure Ospreay probably relished doing it and get a bit of revenge. This was obviously in reaction to what Triple H said on Pat McAfee's show about alluding to Ospreay very clearly.
It was about him
working off, and obviously Ospreay coming back with the lines he had. But apparently Ospreay also was wanting to have a go at the the line Punk random, because again, Punk, who doesn't use insider references and leaves all that internet shit aside, during one of these many shows of a mini weekend, had to go Will Ospreay's tattoo in not so many words.
Oh, it's a crack of that one. I love that one when he got it. It was to the Miz of all people, because the Miz genuinely didn't know what Miz literally thought about like him getting a tattoo. He was like, Miz was like, I don't get tattoos. He didn't have a clue what was going on or the reference was. He just threw it at him, Punk. But can I just say something about the books as well? Sorry, it always comes across to me like, and I know Matt Jackson's always been the one of the books that's always a bit more in the camera in your face. It's almost like he's got the problem with Punk. Nick doesn't really say much, what I've seen anyway. It's always Matt that's delivering these lines and seeing. So the camera walking out, that's why then? Yeah, it's obvious. And in the Ospreay thing as well, it's like, all right, once again, your revenge, but what year is that line from? 2002? You know what I mean? How many people have said it about him? Is that the only thing people can have a go at him at? You know what I mean? It's like,
we're gonna end up fucking flying through Dynamite later, so I might as well talk about it now. The Ospreay thing was just, it was the 1-2 combo of it was even worse. The fact that like, there's maybe a world where Ospreay could have had a little line and a little promo that was already, you know what I mean, in front of a crowd on a completely different week where it's already going well, and there's just a little line in there about I'm the hardest working man in wrestling, or something that's clearly a shot back at Triple H.
Or I love the grind or something, yeah.
I think there's a world we can get away with that, but going so directly back at Triple H, again, I know Triple H did it on the Pat McAfee show, but again, you're using real estate on your primetime TV show to, and I know the Pat McAfee show is, I think it's on ESPN, isn't it? But you're using it in the middle of your kayfabe wrestling show instead of building the dream match we all want to see with Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. We're talking about this, and again, in the shadow of what we just heard, it was just embarrassing again. And Ospreay's been one of the shining lights that should be far away from this fucking muck. We shouldn't be thinking about Punk and Triple H and WWE when it comes to Ospreay. We should be focusing on the good stuff that AEW have been doing the last while, which is building this prime match. And I'm not willing to let it go. I think there's a lot of people who, like you said about Curry there, who are turning on AEW this week, and I understand why, and I understand the emotion. But we should all remember how hot we were on AEW 2-3 weeks ago, and it's like, can they throw it away that quickly? I suppose they can, but like, things were going good, and it wouldn't take much to get back on that track. But like, we're veering more and more away from it, and I thought the Ospreay promo was another great example of that.
It was, and I can't believe how good and how the reactions have been to him on the mic and that. He's been brilliant. Like, he really, really has been great on the mic. And even that, like, I'll say, like, it's just that line, like, his delivery was good still, and the fans were kind of into it. Well, the fans that were there. But, you know, it was one of them things of, like, it was just an old school line that you've heard so many times before. It was poor, if I'm honest with you. Like, if he could have come with anything else but that, it would have been okay.
It was probably fine, but the mood I was in after the Tony thing, I found it hard to watch. I really did. It was placements, everything as well. That was the worst thing about it, that it was right after. The news story we got coming out of it, you know, apparently Tony Schiavone, who was...
I seen the fucking pictures.
If we're going to do comparisons to WWE 2000, that poor bloke, like, he...
That's the new meme, innit? For about a month, that's the new meme you'll see all over Twitter.
Look, he can tell everyone, because apparently what he's telling people is he was just selling the storyline, he was selling the books, and he was selling the heels. We're going to cut the promo. When he leaves AEW and he's back, I don't even know, does he still do a Conrad podcast?
He still does it. Yeah, he still does
it. When he's free and clear to talk about AEW a little bit more, you know, candidly, one day that'll come on it. He'll be doing in 10 years AEW Retro podcast with Tony Schiavone, 100%. Like, and he'll be like, yeah, I fucking hated it. Yeah, it reminded me of all the bad things. Like, you know, that's what he thinks. You know, he's not that
He's
man.
Been there, done it, wore the t-shirt to everything that happened in the aforementioned WWE 2000 especially. So, yeah, he knows when something's good and when something's, like, bad, isn't it, to put on your TV? So,
yeah. And that's the thing where, you know, there's little bits and pieces of news of, you know, talent backstage feeling embarrassed about it and wanting to move on. WWE talents laughing at it, and WWE talent, you know, kind of just going, yep, they shot themselves in the foot. Punk's fucking posting the George Bush.
I bet he's loving it. He will be loving this, Benno. He'll be living it.
He'll be on his burner liking all the tweets. I got a little like of a strange burner account on my Twitter. I was like, I wonder. Like, you never know. He's out there, Phil. He's the most online man. Him and Drew went, their feud is literally two Twitter men going back and forth. Like, he's fucking the worst, and I hear worse than you see publicly, I promise you, folks. But like, yeah, that's where we are. But anything more on that? Again, we're talking about CM Punk,
Yeah.
and it's fucking on AEW now.
This is you, Benno. This is look at you. You're the biggest Punk guy. You don't even seem sick of it, even though you live for it. It's just one of them.
I do and I don't.
No need.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. At this, as you said, at this specific moment in time, with how good it's been going, there was zero need for it on your telly. But these people, Tony Khan, he just can't. He can't take.
Go on, say the name. Go on.
What a tit. He can't take criticism. He can't take anything. And I know this was more of a direct go, fair enough, but still, Blanket, you've been on a good run. You've got your fans back. You've got, your hot streak going again, But no, he'll always be that guy. Whether you say it's the message board in him, Benno, he's just built like that.
Which I kind of respect.
It's never, it's hard, it's hard, but he's never going to change. He's never going to change.
There we are. Well, more on Dynamite later on when we get there. But yeah, I want AEW to succeed, and nobody gets in their own way. More than AEW do, more than Tony Khan does. But we'll go into some other new stuff before we circle back around to Dynamite. I'm sure JP will have plenty to say about that on
he'll be loving it
on Tuesday. I think he's putting off watching Dynamite this week. I'm sure he'll get into it.